Okay guys, this is Julie. I'm back and I'm gonna see if somehow my video got fixed. My last video, even though I had it in horizontal mode, it ended up on portrait. Am I sideways or am I straight up? What do you think? Tell me. Let's see, hold on. I'm gonna bring Damien on. Watch, this is gonna be funny. We'll see if he... Anyway, okay, sorry you guys are watching. All right, so let me move on because hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I am sideways. Okay, yay. The whole thing I did before, it's like this much of my face. Like, I am not kidding. It's silly. So, anyway, I'm so glad you're here. I'm just going to do it again, if you guys don't mind. And, good morning. Good morning, Carrie. Thank you so much. So, like, it has my whole face, right? Not like this much of my face. Because you don't want to see this close up, because especially because I have this zit right here. And does it look good? Here comes Damien. Yeah. For fun. Okay, anyway, that was Damien. Well, listen, here's what I was talking about earlier. I'm going to go back and delete that one, and I'm going to go do the one that I'm doing today. And I'm going to do it again. But, oh, thank you, Gary. Okay, yay, good. All right, so we were talking about, do you ever have that feeling sometimes when you are in those anonymous days, those back pasture days, where sometimes you just feel like, you feel like I should be doing something else. I should be, nobody's noticing me. Okay, now my lighting's going weird. Okay, hold on. There we go. Nobody's noticing me, and I'm just in this place where nobody sees me. I'm totally anonymous. We can despise those days or we can appreciate them, because when you're going through those days, it is usually preparing you for the next season of your life. And sometimes we forget that those back pasture seasons, they are so important. And I want to talk to you today about some of the things that may be developing in your back pasture season that you may not realize. And also, this is based on a story of a guy who was so unimportant that the most famous guy in his whole country was coming to his house, and his family didn't even tell him. They left him out in the back pasture because he was just a runt. And they said, hey, Samuel said, hey, is there anybody else in your house? And they were like, no, just the runt out in the back pasture. Hey, good morning, Carrie. Good morning, Sheila. This is Carrie. Good morning, Sheila. So, we want to talk about David's life a little bit. This is David. And he spent a good amount of years in the back pasture, but what we see is that he's developing skills that he needs for the next phase of his life, and so are we. The first thing that he was developing was the very thing that gave him the entry into the royalty. So, for instance, David, one of the things that we see where he began to enter into this whole thing with the king and the kingdom was in that back pasture time. He was developing his ability to worship and to play his instrument, to play his lyre and his flute. He wasn't like that homeschooled guy that's like spending 8 hours at home learning how to play the baby grand piano classical, and they're like 6 years old and they can play like all this stuff. He wasn't that guy. He was the shepherd who was bringing his instrument, sitting out, playing his instrument and learning how to worship, learning how to play it. And that was the very thing that when Saul was in a really bad mood, they were like, hey, we know this guy that plays an instrument beautifully. Maybe he can come help you. And so then David's invited to come to the castle, right? And so it tells us that from that point on, he went between the castle and the sheep, and the castle and the sheep. He was going back and forth. He was transitioning. He wasn't fully into the royal life, but that one thing that brought him into the castle was his worship. And if you think about it, God is developing things in you, your skills, your abilities that are going to lead you to the next season of your life during this back pasture time. It's not a waste what God is doing in you in those seasons. The next thing we see from all of whatever happens to David next is that he is learning how to be fearless in the back pasture. Some of you are spending your days taking babies to the ER and dealing with fevers and sending out emails that to important people that you don't think they'll ever answer you. And we are learning how to be fearless in the everyday that we're doing, aren't we? And so David, we find out later on, he's like, oh, well, when I was a shepherd, I fought a bear and I fought a lion, and now I'm going to fight this giant, right? So he wasn't just wasting his time. He was realizing that oh, I'm not scared of these things because I'm not scared of the next level because I've already taken over these levels, right? That gave him the courage to go to the next level to fight this giant. And you are also gaining courage in that back pasture to become up to fight your next giant. So that's the second thing. The third thing David is learning is how to use his weapons. Come on, somebody. What do you think about that? I mean, he gets out to the battlefield. Nobody's going to fight this giant guy. So he gets out his slingshot and his stones. He picks out the right stones. You better believe that he knew exactly how to use that slingshot. It wasn't the first time that he picked it up. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he put that stone in there and he swung it around and he killed the giant with one stone. You better believe that that practice was honed in the back pasture. When he's sitting there and nobody is watching him, and he's practicing with that slingshot over and over and over. So you, in your back pasture times, your anonymous days, you are also learning about your weapons. You are learning how to fight depression by finding the joy. You are learning how to overcome the sad circumstances of your life by praying. You are learning how to pray. You're learning how to worship. You're learning how to dig in deep. You're learning how to do all these things that are going to be the weapons that you need to fight your next battle. And then the last thing, I just love this about David. The last thing that we see, the next thing in his life is, then what happens after that is Saul makes him the military commander. Okay? And one thing that the verse, and this is what it says, he is put in charge of military operations. Everybody, both the people in general and Saul's servants, approved of and admired David's leadership. The last thing he was learning, or one of the last things, was when he was in the sheep with the sheep in the field, he was learning leadership. Why? Because he is learning how to but how to guide a group of sheep. He's learning how to find them the water they need, the food they need, how to protect them from predators, how to get them to do what he wants them to do. And I'm not saying like leaders are manipulative. I'm just saying like he's learning that with the sheep. And all of those skills are transferring into him becoming this amazing leader. You better believe he didn't wake up one day and be like, wow, I'm an amazing leader, right? He had experience. He had worked on these skills for years and years and years and years. And nobody saw them. He wasn't the leader before then. He wasn't made the leader. He was the runt. He was the little boy when he said, I'll go fight Saul. And Saul was like, you're too young and inexperienced. So yeah, she said, one stone, dig in deep. Yes, don't despise small beginning. Keep preaching and teaching. Oh, yes, that's exactly right, Sheila. It's like it has to start somewhere, and it doesn't start on the grand stage, right? It didn't start with him fighting Goliath. It started with him in the field with the sheep. So I want you today, you're learning some leadership skills wherever you are. You're learning how to guide people. You're learning how to lead people. You're learning how to take care of things and take care of people. So don't despise the days of small beginnings, because they are very important to what's coming next in your life. They are the very moments that are equipping you for the next season that God is bringing into your life. So if you're in that anonymous pasture, you're on the back pasture, you're anonymous, nobody's seeing you, rest there and keep learning, keep growing. Look for those skills that you're learning and appreciate those days, because there'll be one day where you're probably like, oh my gosh, I just wish I was like back in the sheep with the pasture. This is like so hard. Anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I hope that gives you some encouragement for if you're in that place. It's not a waste of time. God is using it in your life. So may your minds be fierce and your hearts be strong and your spirit very kind today. I love you all. And if you're going to Propel, I will see you there 7 o'clock. Come see me. Bye.